The woman who saved the first Arab kingdom, the secret hidden beneath the desert. Introduction. 853 BC. The desert never forgets. Every footprint disappears with the wind, yet some stories survive for thousands of years. Long before great empires dominated the Middle East, before vast cities rose from the sand, scattered tribes struggled to survive beneath an unforgiving sun. But one summer, a single decision, one hidden secret, and one extraordinary woman would change everything. Her name was Layla. History remembers the kings who fought. Legends remember the woman who made victory possible. This is the forgotten story buried beneath the sands of Arabia. The Night of the Strangers. The evening sky burned crimson as hundreds of campfires illuminated the endless dunes. King Jindabyu's tribal alliance had gathered for a council unlike any before. Messengers arrived from every direction. Some carried gifts. Others carried lies. Among the celebrations, musicians filled the air with drums while dancers entertained exhausted warriors. Layla *** danced gracefully around the fire. To everyone watching, she was merely an entertainer. But hidden beneath the silver bracelets on her arms were tiny coded markings only a handful of trusted scouts could understand. As she spun through the crowd, her eyes searched every unfamiliar face. Then she noticed them. 3 travelers. Too clean for merchants. Too disciplined for nomads. Their hands carried no dust despite crossing the desert. They weren't visitors. They were spies. And they weren't watching the king. They were watching the army. Without saying a single word, Layla ** changed the rhythm of her dance. Every turn, every step, every pause became a silent warning. Only King Jindabyu's closest commanders understood the message. The enemy had already entered the camp. The hidden stone. That night the camp slept. But Layla did not. Following the spy's footprints beyond the dunes, she discovered an abandoned shrine half buried beneath centuries of sand. Inside stood a cracked stone covered with strange carvings. At first they appeared meaningless. Until moonlight struck the surface. Hidden symbols suddenly appeared. Not a prayer. Not a prophecy. A map. The markings pointed toward forgotten wells abandoned generations earlier. Whoever controlled those wells controlled the desert. Layla ** realized why the enemy had come. This war was never about land. It was about water. The race against the storm. Before sunrise, King Jindabyu secretly moved his people away from the main caravan route. Thousands crossed empty valleys where no tribe had traveled for decades. Many believed they were marching toward death. Children cried from thirst. Camels collapsed. Even seasoned warriors began to doubt. Then, just as the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, the sand gave way. Fresh water burst from beneath ancient stone. The forgotten wells still lived. Hope returned. The kingdom would survive another season. But the enemy was already approaching. The trap. News spread quickly across the desert. The invading coalition believed Jindabyu's warriors had become weak after the long journey. Confident of an easy victory, they marched directly toward the oasis. Exactly as Layla had predicted. She had studied the shifting dunes for years. She knew where the winds buried soft sand beneath a thin crust. She convinced the king to leave the center of the battlefield completely open. The enemy believed the path was clear. It wasn't. as hundreds of soldiers charged forward. The ground collapsed beneath horses and chariots. Chaos erupted. The desert itself became a weapon. The Battle of the Red Dunes. Trumpets echoed across the valley. Spears crashed. Arrows darkened the morning sky. King Jindabu led the first assault. But victory belonged not to strength. It belonged to preparation. The invading army found itself surrounded by shifting sand, hidden archers, and warriors emerging from every direction. What had looked like an easy conquest became complete disaster. By sunset, the enemy retreated into the endless desert. Many would never find their way home. Epilogue. The victory united tribes that had once distrusted one another. For the first time, travelers, merchants, and foreign scribes began recording the growing power of the people living across northern Arabia. Names once spoken only around campfires slowly appeared on carved stone. King Jindabu entered history. But those records rarely mentioned the woman whose courage uncovered the hidden map, whose intelligence turned celebration into espionage, and whose strategy transformed the desert into the greatest fortress on earth. Perhaps that is why history often remembers